It's rolling, just so you know.
All right, hi everyone. That was a great workout. Everyone did really good. I see we got our little breathless burning, little sweating going on, which is great. So, and I see people are like eating already. I hope they're tasty. I've not yet tasted it. Isn't that great? Typically, sometimes you ever notice after a workout like that, you don't really feel that hungry. You're like, oh, it's gonna. That's because of the neurohormones, the adrenaline, noradrenaline. It increases adrenaline, which suppresses appetite. But you notice it initially suppresses appetite, but then if you wait too long, wow, and then watch out. And what do people typically go for right after that? Is you want carbs, or we'll say sugar, like an apple, even something healthy. And we'll eat fruit, and we'll say, oh, that was great. But what I'm going to talk about today is how even eating healthy isn't mean we're eating for fat loss, okay? So if we have too much sugar in our diet, it just kind of works against us. And we tend to store more fat than to lose fat. And it all has to do with like sugar and insulin and glucose. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So Mike, if you can advance to the next slide. What we're going to discuss is fat loss versus weight loss, calories versus hormones. So we don't really believe in calories in, calories out. It doesn't work, and we all know that. It really has to do with the hormonal effect of the exercise and the food that we're eating that will change our bodies. Not only change our bodies, but change our health, okay, and the way we think about food. So we're going to talk about the hormonal effect of healthy foods versus fat loss foods. A little bit about your metabolic type, because everyone knows that person who seems to eat whatever they want and they're stick thin. And then we're always on a diet, and what is going on? We can't lose a pound. So we know people like this. We'll also discuss a little bit about big rocks versus little rocks. And you can, guys, feel free to chime out or stop me or ask questions or talk amongst yourselves. This is very informal because I know you all know each other, which is really good. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what made the difference for me. You can fast forward. Next slide.
It's supposed to.
Okay, so when we talk about weight loss versus fat loss, we're going to look at the screen in front of us. Okay, here we see Sally. Okay, Sally is in the green dress. Okay, and then Darlene is in the red dress. If you look at their height, 5'5", they both weigh 150 pounds, but you can clearly see there's a difference. Their BMI also is the same. Okay, that's the insurance company saying for your height and weight, you need to weigh this much. But really, what the difference is Sally is on, say, a weight loss diet, where Darlene is more addressing her hormonal differences. Darlene is eating more frequently, more protein and vegetable-based meals throughout the day, where Darlene may say, you know what, the Kashi cereal is healthy, my organic cereal, my non-fat milk, and my fruit. That's healthy, right? But it doesn't equate fat loss. So we know there's a very clear difference. Okay, next slide. So what we typically get are a lot of clients that come in as the larger shaped hair, and if they go on their weight loss plan, they could possibly become a smaller, but it's still a mushier pair. But we know everyone really wants the tighter, leaner, more hourglass look, right? You don't want to be on a diet the rest of your life. You want to be able to kind of, give yourself a little reward meal here and there and enjoy life. And we also know that research shows that there isn't a real big success with a weight loss approach, and that typically there's a 95% failure rate, and 5% of those people, or 66% of those individuals who take the weight loss effect will actually end up fatter 2 years after that diet. So they'll actually gain more weight. Next slide. So which one has more calories? Okay. One is a donut on the left, and chicken breast with the skin. Okay.
I thought it was a pumpernickel bagel.
I know, that's
I thought it was a bagel.
The screen's a little darker. Can anyone tell me which one do they think?
How many ounces of chicken?
Yeah.
It's probably 4 ounces. Typically a serving for women is like 4 ounces. Yeah, I had no idea. I was like,
Chicken with the skin.
chicken with the skin, right? All right, next slide.
Oops, sorry,
Go back.
come on.
The chicken breast has 1 additional calorie. All right. Now, 250 calories for the donut. Sorry, that didn't line up. I have to fix that. 251 calories, 20 grams of fat in the donut, only 3 grams of fat in the chicken breast, 18 grams of carbohydrate, that's the big one. 2 grams of carbohydrate, and then the protein. Look at the difference in protein. The donut, how many of you can eat 3 donuts? Yeah. Could you eat 3 chicken breasts in a sitting?
Probably.
Probably not, because of this.
I don't do donuts.
There you go, right?
I don't. Sugar.
The grams of protein
Is
that's going to satiate the appetite. So we want to stick with the chicken breast. The donut, we don't even look at that protein. That's not even a complete protein. But tons of. So.
Oops, sorry.
Hey. Wait until I get to forwarding his presentation. I'll get you that. All right. So weight loss versus fat loss. Low calorie diets. They typically just tell you to eat less, go low fat, avoid fat, eat lots of healthy foods, nuts, fruits, grains. A hormonally balanced diet is eat more protein and vegetables. I'm going to teach you about a carb tipping point, when you are more insulin sensitive and when your body can tolerate more carbohydrates. Typically, first thing in the morning after a workout. That's it. And especially for perimenopausal and postmenopausal women, carbohydrates have to come way down. All right? But we bring our protein and vegetables. It doesn't mean you starve. You just eat more protein and vegetables. Okay? Low fat. Now, when we mean low fat, what we typically mean is let's get the omega-6 fats down and let's get our omega-3 fats up. And I can teach you how to do that too, very helpfully. Next slide. The hormonal effects of carbohydrates. So vegetables have very little sugar to ratio of fiber and water, filled with water. Refined grains. So we all know that the white breads and the donuts are horrible because there's no water, right? Very little fiber and tons of sugar. Whereas fruit is a little bit better in that they are really loaded with water. The sugar is a little bit higher and the fiber, and we really almost want to stay away from whole grains because there's not a lot of water in them and you're still getting a carbohydrate effect from whole grains. Go to the next slide. Let's look at this breakfast. So we have a lot of clients that come in and they'll say, I have my organic cereal, either kashi or there's another one that's very popular, and it's like granola, it's oats and nuts, and they're like, it's really healthy though. And they have that with a cup of milk and a glass of juice or a side of fruit. Now if you look, what you see is the calories are higher. There's only 16 grams of protein, and they're not even complete proteins. They're getting 56 grams of sugar. 56 grams. Now you look at this huge breakfast, okay? This is a 6 egg white omelet with 1
It's my phone.
Yeah.
Somebody's phone?
Yeah, it's mine.
Don't worry about it. I'm good. A 6 egg white omelet with vegetables, about a cup or 2 of vegetables, could be spinach or any vegetable that you like, and a side of fruit. There is 39 grams of protein in that breakfast with only 310 calories and only 4 grams of sugar and 4 grams of fat from the yolk, all healthy. Okay.
So I think that kashi cereal is so good. So I get done eating dinner and I sit on the couch at night at 8 o'clock and I watch television and I take the kashi box and I eat half of
Absolutely,
it.
absolutely.
I shouldn't do that.
See, my rule is if it tastes that good,
Right. But here's the thing, Sally,
but here's
right?
one that can make it eat and stays like a steak.
Yeah.
Metabolically, we're all different types. And just from looking at you, you're tall and you're probably very lean and wiry as a kid. You look like you probably were a little bit more of a muscle burner. Muscle burners can tolerate a little bit more carbohydrate. So we would probably talk about getting more carbohydrates for you earlier throughout the day and just changing the ratio around. I could actually show you what a plate would look like for you of carbs, proteins versus fat. We're also metabolically different. Okay, we have to address that too. And that's probably why you're craving a lot of sugar, a little bit of that at night. Lots of sugar, but you can see, and they typically say a lot. Carbohydrate-wise, I didn't even tell you what that was. Carbohydrate-wise, we're talking like maybe only 30 grams to 50 grams a day for people who are in the middle of attaining a goal. Right? I mean, that's crazy. That's way off the hook. You ate 2-3 days worth of sugar. Crazy. All right. So how we work it here is we talk about preemptive eating, which simply means breakfast is your omelet with your side of fruit, your lettuce wrap, like you just had a lettuce wrap. maybe an almond with an apple at mid-morning. And if you're still hungry, you can have some egg whites. Your lunch is a very healthy salad with your protein on it. Mid-afternoon, a protein shake. And then dinner, I know you can't really see very well, but that's like a salmon with a side of broccoli. And that's typically the type of system we'll get people on eating preemptively throughout the day. When we talk about hormones, how we talk about it or address it is that the hypothalamus sends signals to the pituitary or vice versa, which sends signals to the thyroid gland to send out thyroid stimulating hormones, very, very closely related to leptin. Leptin controls a lot of the thyroid stimulating hormone and the signals to basically our fuel gauge and how we burn or store fat, which sends signals to the adrenal gland, and for women it can send signals to the ovary about ovulating and menses and menopause. Okay, so we need to get our food in order, and the pancreas secretes the insulin. So we need to get our food in order to send a hormonal signal that's going to balance everything out and keep us in that fat-burning state, or just in general, just talking about our health. Okay, you can just forward to the next slide. So when we talk about fat-burning hormones, and I found this one this one like blew me away. All of these are fat-burning hormones, but in order for estrogen and progesterone, for that ever to become a fat-burning hormone, we have to address insulin and cortisol. Insulin and cortisol at the base of the pyramid is the most critical, and that is influenced by what we put in our mouths, what we eat, and how we move, how we exercise. So, until we get our stress under control and our diet, we'll never get the fat-burning effect from thyroid and adrenal or estrogen and progesterone. And this is more specific for postmenopausal or menopausal women, because we don't really have any more of those hormones. So we really need to address that. So we can't talk about just calories. It can't just be, you need to eat X number of calories. We have to address the hormonal influence of these foods. And that even goes with supplements. So forget the supplements, none of that matters. What matters is getting this under control, and that's why we talk a lot about cortisol. We talk about restorative. We need to take walks. We need to take breaks away from our desk. We hear this every day on TV even. They're saying how our stress levels are off the hook. So you have to do things that make you happy, massage, restorative, walking, a hot bath with Epsom salts, right? Anything you can do, meditation, because you've already done the hormonal work with that brief period of exercise. Now we have to bring it down, okay? And next slide, because I know Mike has to talk too. All right, trigger foods. So what we like to typically take away from the diet initially are foods that trigger an imbalance. So that could be appetite. Dairy is a big one. Dairy was a big one for me because I was like, Greek yogurt. I don't drink milk, the creamer in my coffee. All of these things were triggering an insulin response in my body. So my skin was bad. It also triggered an estrogen imbalance in my body. It mimicked the estrogen that your own body's estrogen is fat burning. But when you take in estrogen mimicking items, like dairy is a big one, you actually store more fat, and you store it in the lower, well for me it's the lower half. Everyone has their little area, don't they? Mm-hmm. Right, with the belly fat, or some people it's the arm, the tricep, the butt, the hips. So dairy was a big one. Whole grains, believe it or not. So the grains are really our friend, and everyone's saying whole grain, whole grain. Guess what? Nope, lots of carbohydrates, lots of sugar. Nuts, so peanuts is a allergenic food we pretty much take out of the diet. Now when I say take out, we take it out. Initially, the way I do my program is I do a 4-week cleanse. I take all of these foods out for 4 weeks, and you commit to a program of eating a certain way, like I showed with the preemptive slide, eating that way for 4 solid weeks. Then individually I meet back with everybody and say, okay, let's try and maybe have a glass of wine and see how your body reacts to that. And I'm not telling people, oh, you're an alcoholic, you can't ever drink again, but we need to all reestablish, if we are maybe drinking a bottle or 2 of wine a week, we need a new relationship with alcohol. And this is a good week, a 4-week cleanse to kind of reestablish that, you know, the margarita or whatever everyone's like kind of going for on the weekend. High sugar fruits. So we typically go with berries, apples, and grapefruit. And we get the melons and all of the other pineapple and the higher sugar fruit out of the diet for 4 weeks. Diet sodas, big no. The diet soda is more of, because of all of the chemicals.
Aspartame.
And aspartame, it influences our blood sugar and our ability and our hunger. It actually makes you hungrier down the road, okay? Burner
Go ahead.
types.
Lori has a question.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that one woman that you work with who got the aspartame from her, I think it was
Fibromyalgia. I have a client who had severe fibromyalgia. We removed aspartame from her diet. She's pain-free. Completely
Yeah.
pain-free.
You know, she
So
was
all-
like doing like several, like 4 cans of Coke a day, diet iced tea.
The number one thing the FDA gets complaints about is aspartame, but you're generally not gonna hear that.
Everyone loves. I love my diet Dr. Pepper. I did, but you know, I would actually make me hungrier down the road.
Yeah, I don't think so.
The reason that it makes you hungrier is that in nature, whenever your tongue tastes something salt or sweet, it causes an insulin response, because in nature, nutrients are going to follow, and those nutrients need to be digested. Same thing goes for sugar-free gum. So insulin is a heat-seeking missile. It's going to act on something. If you don't put food in, if you put diet soda in or you put chewing gum in, it's going to start to knock your blood sugar down. Your blood sugar is going to drop below baseline. Your brain's going to say, hey, my blood sugar is bottoming out, and it's going to cause you to eat. It's going to cause you to get hungry, and then you'll eat whatever you get your hands on.
That's right. So when I talked about metabolic differences or burner types, Peggy, I said probably at one point was really a big, you know, muscle burner, tall, thin, lean. Okay, we all can move from muscle or a mixed burner. Mixed burners are probably equal between the mixed and the sugar burner, and then we have our sugar burner type. Okay. They're all metabolically different. Now know that this is not a clinical tool, and I'm not going to say, okay, you're a sugar burner, you're a muscle burner, but we can really move between each burner type at any point, all right? At one point, I was a very big sugar burner, because I was very overweight, right? Very, very overweight. So I may test here, but in the back of my mind, I know that sugar burner feeling. So I eat as if I'm a sugar burner. Okay, where we have people who are muscle burners who really actually they're like, oh, I'm really a sugar burner because I crave sugar. I said, no, not typically. Muscle burners really crave sugar, and that's their body's way of saying they really need a little bit more fruit. Or they're the one type of burner type that actually can tolerate dairy much better. So Greek yogurt actually is their friend, and a little bit of cheese. Okay, but for me, very bad. Neurotransmitters. So 4 neurotransmitters that we like to address. We also test for these too. We have 4 major ones I like to address. Now everyone's born with a dominant neurotransmitter nature, and then there's deficiencies could be in all of these natures. Know that we have all of these natures as well. So the serotonin at the top, that one is more of a sympathetic, along with GABA are the 2 sympathetic neurotransmitters. Those are the calming ones, the ones that like make us like chill and like hit the pillow and go to sleep. So serotonin is a comforting neurotransmitter, and it also is the self-esteem one. Those are usually performers, people who can get up on stage, you know those types, and they're just so comfortable, and they can just, you know, sing and dance and not be all embarrassed. Like I would just be horrified. Okay, and then we have our GABA. So I tested it as a GABA. I like that relaxing, calm. I'm always looking for vacation and time off. In my head, that's my #1 priority, and I'm laid back. Okay. Dopamine, you know that type A person. They are just driven. They get out. They just leap out of bed. Usually they come in with the biggest sleep issues. They have now know that they are also born with the dominant nature, but they can also be deficient in that nature. And then when you're dominant in a nature and then you're deficient in it, you'll say something is wrong. Okay, so you can be dominant and deficient at the same time. Acetylcholine is your sharp, witty, quick, great memory, and that was how Mike tested as a very strong. And he would have comebacks, and I'd be like, how do you think of that so fast? That's so annoying. How come I can't think of those comebacks that quickly? That's the acetylcholine brain, okay? So dominant natures, you have all 4, but you're going to test more dominant in one nature versus the others. So that I found to be very interesting, and that has a lot to do with our hormonal balance and how we move, how we exercise, and and eating influences that, and the cortisol and all of those influence these neurohormones. So I pretty much went over that, and you can just fast forward to the next one.
I'm pushing it, it's just taking its
Nothing?
time.
Oh.
It's switching slowly.
That's okay. Very quickly, I also talk a lot about big rocks, little rocks, and sand. Okay, so when it comes to nutrition, I always say the biggest rocks are stress, sleep, diet, and exercise. So if you had to fill up the bucket with what I feel is most important, it's going to be stress, how you maintain stress, probably more so about how you eat, because you ever notice if you don't get a good night's sleep, what do you crave all day? Carbs, right? So the stress is a big one. So if we're not able to shut down at night and just turn it off, that's going to influence what we crave the next day. So stress, sleep, then our nutrition and exercise are the biggest rocks to fill that bucket, okay? Vitamins, minerals, and water. People are so into supplements without addressing the food portion of it, and they're just, vitamins, multivitamin, what's the big one now? Raspberry ketones. How is this going to help me burn fat? But they're eating like tons of fruit, tons of kashi, and nothing's going to happen. You're not going to lose anything, because all of the organic and antioxidants and designer foods and supplements are the sand that then fill the bucket. But we want the foods that we eat to have lots of vitamins, minerals, and water in them. And that would come next after the nutritional portion and the stress control. And so I like to say to people, I would rather you eat for fat loss at McDonald's than eat healthy at Whole Foods. So it doesn't mean you have to go to Whole Foods and get organic this and that and, free range this and that. It simply means, if it just means just getting you to throw the bun off of your chicken sandwich at McDonald's, that's where we start. That's for fat loss. And this makes it very doable for everybody. Let's just get the rocks in place first. And then when they get results, they're willing to take the next step. Okay? And it's just
It's
slow.
gonna flip.
Does anyone
Yeah.
have any questions? Feel free to interject or jump in.
I'm pushing buttons, but it's just, here it goes, it should run out.
Oh, this is me. All right, so just a little bit about me, and I'll let Mike take over. That was me on my wedding day in February. By December.
What did you do?
Yes.
It's on your website.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the whole story, okay? So everyone was like, oh, you were having a baby. I said, no baby. I didn't have another baby for like 4 years after that. I went crazy. I dieted. I did a weight loss. I starved myself, right? I killed
good,
my
right?
fat-burning engine. I killed it. All right, I did all the jogging and all the exercise, and then we moved, and so the stress went up because I got married. I didn't know this man, right? I'm sleeping in bed. I moved to a different state. I got a new boss, and my other boss left, and I loved him. So stress, and I wasn't around like my family unit, and I didn't know how to speak up. I didn't know how to address all of this change in my life. And we lived near an Italian delicatessen. And I ate. All right, so that was very, that was my fat loss. Now here is my worst. You won't find another picture. My legs were just ginormous. Okay?
That's you in that hammock?
Yeah, that's me.
That's my daughter Molly.
And that's my daughter, who is now 15. My daughter is on the program too, because unfortunately she got the genetic stick of sugar burner, and she had a real problem with dairy. As soon as we put dairy out, in 6 weeks, 21 pounds.
Oh my God.
She's 15. She'll be 16 soon. She's thrilled. Her skin cleared up. And then I did like another weight loss thing, and I was running, and that was my leanest. And then I did exercise, and you could just see just better. It's better here, a little bit better. And I tend to go up and down, and I struggle. I'm just here to tell you, I am not like always in great shape, but I feel I have the tools now. I don't need 2 hours to exercise. I don't need to restrict calories. I don't need to feel like somebody's scratching my brain because I can't handle, the low calorie over exercising feeling anymore. it's not a good place to be. It affects every other area of your life. All right, so I think that's it. I just want to close out and just say that's the nutrition portion of what we teach in our program, and Mike is going to talk a little bit about exercise, and then we'll wind it down. It looks like, you know what it is?
It looks like bugs.
It's not bugs. It does look like
Those three
bugs.
things.
They're protein.
Protein.
It was a picture.
Protein.
It was a picture of a reindeer. I know. I was like, what is that?
Like bugs.
And then that's the rest of that. Is I like to use.
Well, that was on the
pictures.
plate.
That was on the plate. It's a picture of a reindeer on the plate.
I don't know how to get out of this. You're gonna have to.
I will.
you're
I'll
gonna
do
have-
it.
All right.
All right.
Everybody stand up and